So should I be hearing something?
Yes, I think it'll kick in a sec.
Mute.
Hello.
Start video. No, we're not. There it is. Yeah.
Hello, Annie.
Hello, Elaine.
Thank you guys so much.
Here, wait a sec. I'm sending Sam the, I hope, the login. Are you at the actual bookstore?
I am.
You're not a bunch of germy people coughing and sneezing and wearing bandanas?
There are no people except Mark, who's
Oh,
from me, and Bill, who I live with.
okay.
But
Sam says I am a guest or something. Let's see.
There we go.
Yeah, oh, I'll see.
Wait, he's coming.
Okay.
is that Neil or Sam behind you?
Neil.
Hey, Neil.
Hi, Elaine. Good to see you.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Sam there? There's
Oh.
Hi, handsome.
Hey, how's my audio?
Oh, your audio seems good to me. I don't know how it is for everybody else.
It's fine with us.
It's good with us.
Great.
Sam, you were raised on the floor right where Elaine is sitting. She used to hold you and walk you around for like 8 years while I was teaching.
You and I played a lot of Legos.
All right, hold on. I can't be nice to anybody. I have to find the questions here.
Goodness.
Uh-oh.
Okay, on the email.
Get rid of your backlight.
I am.
I would say this room has a slight green cast.
Isn't it pouring rain?
Indeed.
Oh, mon Dieu.
let's see, they were emailed to me, right? Not
Yeah, here, I'll send them again.
question. BP.
But the
list of
question
questions.
should appear somewhere else.
I just have a
okay.
Word doc.
Are you
Sam,
talking about the questions that came from the watchers?
audience- Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and of course you can use whatever you want.
right.
Oh,
Yep.
we didn't get that memo.
Yeah, we did. We got the questions.
strict.
Yeah, but
questions.
don't, anything you don't want to say, you don't have to say.
Right.
They're to be integrated into the talk. So don't worry if you don't like one.
Is it supposed to be a talk?
It's a discussion between you and Mr. Sam Lamott.
Oh, now you tell us. Okay, Sam, we have all kinds of time. Ask me what the new book is about. And I also want to do a really brief reading from it because there's a book passage section in it.
Ooh,
Yeah.
All right.
and when's it coming out, Annie?
March of next year.
March of next year. So I guess
Yeah.
I could tell people they could pre-order, but I don't know.
No, you don't need to. And what will you be doing, Elaine?
I will do a quick introduction to
Okay,
welcome people and tell them
Okay.
that this is experimental and this is new. And if we make any mistakes, bear with us. And if for any reason it goes off, please be patient. It'll come back on. And also it's going to be archived so they can see it again tomorrow if they want to.
okay.
As of,
You're gonna say that, you'll introduce Sam
I will introduce both of you.
and you'll tell him that you'll,
And I was going to say all those things to embarrass him.
yeah, do.
I want to make sure I
definitely.
get in his hellohuman.com.
Hellohuman.co.
.co.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I just
Uh,
went
you
over
don't-
to.
You don't have to
see-
mention it.
Yeah,
Why
let's.
Well, I can take care. Everybody gets it wrong and it's just going to enrage me. So I'll get it right.
Well, I thought, oh, they forgot the
No, but someone else had gotten the,
Elaine, don't forget to fundraise.
yeah, how do people fundraise?
Annie's going to do that.
But is there a button or anything?
Hey, Mark, can you answer this good question?
Yep.
Is there a button to fundraise?
Heck, yeah, there's a button.
Oh, it's not on our screen.
Did you see the email that went out? There should be, did you ever register? You never registered, did you?
No,
All right, I'm gonna, give me 10 seconds.
I registered.
Neil's registered.
So if you look at the an email just went out about 10 seconds ago saying it was 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I got that.
Okay, I will have it. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. I got one at 12:05.
I lost that pen
Yeah, there's
again.
one, well, you can look at the one at 12:05 too. It's the same email pretty much.
Oh, okay.
If you scroll all the way to the bottom of that email,
Become a supporter.
yeah, and if you click that button,
Oh,
it takes you to a page that the people who have already registered have gotten the notice this morning. We've about 1,000 people registered today already,
oh, cool. Yeah.
new people.
But
So
there's nothing on the screen that, obviously, there's no way to hit anything on the screen. It's via the email.
Well, what we can do while you're talking is put a button on your page if you want, and you can.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think we
Button on my page.
button on your page. So you could just ask people to do that, but you should also remind them that it's at the bottom of the email, and maybe they could forward
Okay.
their email to somebody.
Okay. And Sam, you like to shake people down? Oh, Sam's gone.
Yeah, no, I just turned my video off. That's all.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
turn it on when the event begins.
Okay.
Eva, can you
Um,
confirm that we can get a button up in 45 minutes?
Yeah, I'll put a button up right now.
Okay.
I was just setting up the stream. It's all looking good, so.
And I should introduce you. This is Eva, who does all the valuable work.
Hi, Eva with an eye.
Hello.
Eva.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Sam, I just went over to your house to make sure you were awake because I just woke up from a nap with a kitty. And Jax was online with somebody and I said, "Where's your dad?" And I thought he said, he's at the doctor. And I said, he's at the doctor? Oh my God. And they said, no, Nana, he's at his office. So we should talk about Dungeons and Dragons, which we've gotten heavily into. I call it Dungeons and Grandmas though, because the main focus is that everyone should eat. No one should really attack anybody else with swords or lances, but they should eat. And if I'm cold, put on a jacket. You know the rule, Elaine, right? If you're cold, everyone should put on a jacket.
Yeah, everybody else,
Right,
especially people who are young, who don't
right.
think they need them. So Sam, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so tell me though, I know the name of your company, and if you want, I won't say it, but what I know of you is that you are an expert videographer, and but I feel like there's another word I should use. What? Tell me.
I'm not an expert videographer. I had
Oh.
a video camera one day and
Oh.
Tell her what you are.
well, I guess I'm a podcaster. That's what pays my bills.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Aren't you the CEO of HelloHumans.co?
Oh God, no.
HowToHuman.com.
No. See, nobody mentioned, I will mention it because even my
Just
own
go
mother
screw it
can't
up.
get it right.
No, I
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, I don't feel so bad, but I will say that you have a podcast.
yeah.
The podcast is called How to Human.
How to Human. Bill, can I have a pen? I know, but I lost it.
Hold on.
Yeah. And there's a wipe there if you want to wipe one off. Oh, it's so nice to have somebody. You have Neil, I have Bill. We have
I
all
know.
the service, I
You
tell
gotta
you.
find it first.
Oh yeah, it's to find a pen first. So anything we need to know?
I think that it would be good to give a couple of numbers if you want. Annie, we're at about 6,600 people have registered for this.
Wow, cool.
So that doesn't mean that everyone will show up, but
Right.
by itself is a big deal. And we've already this morning raised $12,000.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We only need a couple million more and we'll be great.
I know. I was gonna say that'll pay Sam and my fee.
Right.
But that might be a good way to kind of, suggest it's just starting and it's going to grow.
Yeah. So Elaine can do all that.
I'll say it's just starting and it's 6,600. And
You guys, don't, I'm nervous about pushing the fundraising too hard on this thing.
no, I'm not going to do. I'm going to say how many people have.
I also
Oh,
have
okay.
a thermometer we can
Yeah,
shade.
I just-
Yeah. No, Annie's going to push the fundraising.
Okay, I just shouldn't sound like a telethon.
Yeah,
But it is.
but it is.
The whole reason people are here, and I'll tell them this, is to raise money. That's why we're here. It's to raise money for an independent bookseller.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, Bill, you stay out of it. Bill, call your therapist.
This is,
Is this an hour?
yeah, so we're thinking about an hour. We were trying to figure out if there's a signal you want to give when you want me to come in and thank everybody. So do you want to take it?
I'll say,
I'll
Sam, maybe one more question.
Okay, and then you'll have that question, then I'll thank everybody for coming
Yeah.
and remind them that they're going to be able to see it again and that, they're going to get another email tomorrow giving them the way to Isabel.
Let me just ask a question of Eva while we're here. Eva, if we're on this end, is there a way to make sure that our panel doesn't show up on the master screen?
Eva.
Sorry, I was on mute. What was the question? Your piano doesn't show up?
Yeah, so if Elaine introduces them and they're gone, they talk for 50 minutes, is there a way then for Elaine to come back but not have her kind of visible the whole time?
Yeah, when Annie's talking, she will be visible. I will pin her screen, meaning we'll freeze the video on her.
Great.
And then when you, yeah.
Okay, so that means 10 minutes before 5, you should be ready for Annie to say one more question. Then when she finishes that, then Elaine will come. She'll say, Elaine, do you want to finish up or something? And then we need to get back to Elaine's screen.
Sound
Perfect.
okay?
All right?
Is that okay with Annie?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so you'll know to say one more question when it's,
yes, I'll write it down.
and you have clock.
I have a watch.
Yeah, me
Neil-
too.
Yeah, Neil, is there a clock on this? Is there?
Behind you. I can move it in front
Okay.
of you. Hold on. I never adjusted it for daylight savings time.
I don't need it. The hour doesn't matter. It just needs the minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be precise.
No.
So we can do it as we do it.
And then who's next weekend? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, so then we have Cara Black
Oh,
on
yeah.
Saturday, but Sunday's Easter. We're not going to do Easter.
Yeah, yeah.
And then next comes Khaled on the 18th
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and Dave on the 19th.
Uh-huh.
And, then Jason Rezaian on the
Uh-huh.
25th. And Colin McCann just reached out, and so he's going to do the 26th.
Oh, wow. And you'll keep going.
Oh, we're going to keep going for as long as anyone will watch us.
Okay.
And yeah, this is not, there's, you know, certainly during this pandemic, but we'll see after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
A lot of people are volunteering.
Uh-huh.
We're figuring out how to make it work.
Yeah.
We want to keep it to twice a week in order to make
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
special. You know, we're so used to at the bookstore saying yes to anything 4 times a day. Sure, we'll do 4 events a day.
Yeah.
This requires us to be more disciplined.
Mhm.
But I'm just so excited to get it started. And oh,
I know. This was all Sam's idea, remember?
yeah, our founder.
Our founder. Well, he's thinking, how are we going to raise money for Elaine? How are we going to do this? Okay, this is what I think you ought to do. That's how he talks to me. Okay, I think it's a good idea. Okay, I think it's how we should do it.
Yeah.
I'd love to do do it with Janine if you can fit her in May. Janine Reed.
Let's see what where we are in May.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know. I know you need to
Already.
get. Yeah, yeah. No,
We're-
are we all? Do you have a countdown?
I have 3:58. I need a minute or two to make things live on the website
Okay.
for everyone. So if you want to continue talking about yourself, but knowing that it would be live any moment, then I will let you know that it is. So just give me a couple of minutes and I'll give you a thumbs up. I'll let you know we're live now so you can welcome people.
Okay.
So Annie, do we have a title for your new book?
We do. I'm going to write it down. It's called Dusk, Night, Dawn. Notes on resilience and courage.
Oh, I wish you were ready.
I know, you know, the funny thing, it's all about trying to live under the tragedy of Trump, but it sort of is equally about living under the chaos and uncertainty of the pandemic and Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dusk, Night, Dawn. So
Fantastic.
Sam, you could ask why that's the title too, because it's sort of interesting. I
But I
discovered
want
that
them to buy. I
Oh
want
God,
them
I need to
buy the
write it
book
down.
started
Dusk,
behind-
dawn, dusk, night, dawn.
Dusk, Night, Dawn.
Is that it? Dusk, night, dawn?
And there's a subtitle, yeah, but you don't need to remember that part. Dusk, Night, Dawn.
But I'm going to talk about almost everything, and
Okay.
and also about how just briefly how Hallelujah anyway landed on my door the night of the election, or just when I needed it.
Oh, good, yeah. Did you write out what you're going to say, Elaine?
No, I never write it out, but I have some notes.
Oh, okay, good.
Elaine, are we supposed to keep this clean? Should we not swear?
I'm not the police.
Perfect. All right.
Keep it clean-ish.
Yes, please.
Say something.
Oh, so Sam, are you going to have some plan to keep it cleanish?
No, I would prefer it just, I swear like a sailor, but you know, if this was, I didn't know your broadcast plans, so.
So Sam, we're in a bookstore. It's like being in church.
Yeah, now I don't have my phone with me. Do I need it for any reason?
Mhm.
Good. I hope it won't ring.
I can move the podium closer, but I think it's gonna seem weird.
You look great, Elaine. You look beautiful.
Oh, you're sweet.
Well, I mean it.
I don't see the podium, but I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, it's life. We'll move it closer tomorrow. We're learning how to do this.
Yeah,
Are you
It's
one
a
of
whole
them?
new world.
Trying to stay 6 feet apart while we do it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it's pretty hard.
You look fine, Elaine. Don't-
You look great.
don't-
Rather- Would you rather I stay
Super
here
great.
or left?
Either way, whatever, you're fine there.
Try talking.
Figure something bad.
Yeah, I
might
think that cuts my head off.
Yeah,
No, that's fine.
totally.
That's fine. Just leave it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
That's good, yeah, because half the podium was showing before. I was too nice to say anything.
Now is it showing it all?
Yeah, it's-
No,
No, that's okay. It
it's
won't.
better, it's better. Oh, except for it says book passage on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you know, you can't have everything.
I think people here are aware.
You're gonna say book passage 100
Come
times.
on, guys.
That's great. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We're good. All we have to do is get on. You didn't hike in the rain today, did you?
I did, because I had it, I saw on my app that it was gonna rain at 11:30, so I got, no, at 11, so I got Shelley Adams there at 9:30 and it started to pour. But it seems like if we hike every day, I'm a lot more positive. I'm just, at Deer Park, it's so beautiful. I'll take you there someday. And it's just, it really is like being in a cathedral of redwoods. And
Hmm.
so you look great, Sam.
Yes, you do. Quite handsome.
Yeah. Oh boy, it's pouring.
Yeah. Good.
Uh-oh, it's after 4.
There's almost 5,000 people on the site and it's having technical difficulties. So give me just a few seconds when I try to resolve it. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Is this broadcasting on your website, Elaine?
I can hear you, but we're not broadcasting yet, I don't think.
No,
But is it like, are you broadcasting through YouTube or are you doing it through your web?
Oh,
Is it
Mark-
limited by the bandwidth you pay for on your website? Do you know?
I think the Mark, the extended sessions team has.
It's through
they're doing all the
YouTube.
tech.
Perfect.
Can people see this?
no, they can't see you.
Not yet. I'm working to resolve it. Maybe somebody wants to put a message on Facebook saying we're starting in a few minutes.
I'll send an email out.
Sam, I didn't do it. It's not my fault. I didn't
I
wreck
believe
it.
you.
I really was just sitting here innocently. I like that your sign shows, Sam.
I put it up.
I know. I wish Never Give Up was a little closer.
I kept trying to get a sign up, but we didn't quite get it right. Tomorrow,
Is it?
by tomorrow we'll be pros.
It's backwards though, right, Mom? You can't read
No,
it.
you can read it.
Oh, you can.
The good news sign shows really clearly, and then Never Give Up is,
Hold on, I'll fix that.
yeah, put it on the second shelf. Better. Can you move it down?
Okay, Sam, tell me the name of the podcast again, please.
Hello, Human.
Hello,
You can
human.
tell her the name of the podcast.
It's not Hello Human, Mom.
HelloHumans.co.
How to human.
I'm sorry, Sam, I want to hear it from you. I don't believe her.
Yeah, just say host of the How to Human podcast. That's
How
it.
to Human podcast.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say.
That's
How
it.
to Human podcast.
Got it.
Okay, cool. This may be held against me though, that you didn't know either. I'm sure I'll hear about this later. I cannot, I screw it up whenever I try to mention it, but
We can't go into the. It's just
we
gonna,
can't go into it.
I
He'll
need
fall
more
apart.
therapy already.
Yeah. Okay. So Elaine, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons with any of your grandchildren?
No, they don't do that.
Oh, well,
Poor
some of Jackson and his friends do. He had, in fact, Bill and Emmy's grandchildren, Louisa's nephews used to hang out with Jax a lot, and they would teach him Dungeons and Dragons. And so an effort began yesterday with a tutorial from Jax to teach me, because I thought there was a board game. Or remember like 20 years ago, Elaine, everybody was very concerned because it was considered kind of culty, and teenagers were getting lost in the dark world of, and so I was thinking, oh good, I'm going to enter the dark world. But Jax was sent out to give me a tutorial, and he said, okay, Nana, the most important thing for you to know is this is a game of the imagination. There is no board. Nothing that you think you know about the game is true. It happens in our imaginations. And so little by little, I've, in the vaguest possible way, I've come to realize what it actually is, which is storytelling. So Sam is traditionally the storytelling, the dungeon master or whatever it's called. And so, but today was my second day, and you know, of course, it's a mortification for both of them for me to be playing. But but it's really fun. It's really crazy and fun, and I don't see how it becomes a dark energy cult of emo followers or anything like that. Anyway, how old are your grandchildren now? Are they in college?
Some of them might play, the boys might play, but there are so many new great games.
Of imagination?
Yeah, there really are so much. There's so much now. Oh, that's my phone ringing.
It doesn't matter.
Why aren't you on?
We can't hear it.
Twitter. I'm responding to the messages on our website.
Did you just write on Twitter that we'll be up in a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
We're running 5 minutes, we're running late.
Mark, our tech guy, said to write back to them saying we'll be up in a few minutes. And Mark, will this be archived for people to view later? It works, but that's what he says. It will be archived for people to watch. Okay. And it will be archived. Yeah, tell them that it'll be archived so people can watch it afterwards as well. Yeah, it'll be archived, so in case they can't listen. but it should be, this link should be up in a minute, a couple of minutes. Okay? Okay, thanks. Give me a call if there's any other problems. Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'm glad it's you first,
Hey,
Dan.
everyone, we are live.
Multiple versions, what's going on here, but that's okay. I'm happy to pass them.
Hello. I'm Elaine Petrocelli. Welcome to Conversations with Authors. And our thanks to everyone who has worked so hard to make this happen, all the team from Extended Sessions and all the people from Book Passage, and especially the authors and speakers who have volunteered their time to help Book Passage and bring something wonderful to all of our friends. When we last looked about 10 minutes ago, there were more than 6,600 people who had signed on to watch. And that's probably why we had to be a little bit late, because this is our first time and we're not used to this. But we're going to get better at it. And the good news is that this will be archived, and everyone who is watching today will be able to see the archive, or anyone who signed up and missed it. I think it's going to go up tomorrow afternoon, maybe about 3, just before Isabel Allende's event. So you could have 2 hours of extended sessions at Book Passage. This is really exciting for us. We were very, very sad when we had to close both of our retail Book Passages. We just didn't know what to do. And I was talking to Annie Lamott and her son, Sam. And Sam said, we've got to figure out a way for people to help you. And we've got to get authors involved. And then I got a call from 2 of our great customers. And they said, we want to help you mount an author series. So here we are, thanks to some really great people. And tomorrow you will get another email telling you how to click in to get on to Isabel's event. We might be smooth by tomorrow. Then Cara Black, you'll get an email about hers on the 11th of April. Khaled Hosseini on the 18th. Dave Eggers on the 19th. And Jason Rezaian on the 25th. And I just heard from Colin McCann, who has offered to speak for us on the 26th. I'll keep adding people, so stay tuned. This is going to be an amazing adventure. Now, Anne Lamott is an amazing adventure for me. We met many years ago when her book, Hard Laughter, was published, one of the truly great novels. And thanks to one of my terrific customers, Bob Grieber, who came in and said, what do you mean you haven't read Hard Laughter? You have to read it. Well, that was great, except I was out of it. And when I tried to get it from the publisher, they wouldn't give it to me. So we got pushy and we got more books. And Anne and I have been friends ever since. A few years later, Anne volunteered to teach a writing class at Book Passage. And that mounted our wonderful teaching of writing, art, Italian, French, Spanish, you name it. I've probably missed a few things, but Anne has been an important part of Book Passage ever since. And then one day, a baby was born named Sam, and Anne had to teach her class. And I was excited because I'm a baby person, and I got to hold Sam while she taught. And now Sam is a true grown-up. He has his own business. He's an important podcaster, and he is going to be in conversation with our friend Anne Lamott. So Anne and Sam, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So are we beginning? We're just starting? We're
Yeah.
on? Okay. Hey. Hey, everybody. My name is Sam. I'm Anne Lamott's son. And if you want to know a little bit about me, I'm an ex-meth head, teen dad, college dropout. So no matter where you are in life, you're in good company. Promise that. And Mom, I thought it would be nice just if we could start off with a agnostic kind of mantra of sorts. And so if everybody could, this is something me and my friends say a lot. And just repeat after me, after a nice deep breath. It is not completely fucked and doomed.
It is not completely fucked and doomed.
At worst, it is only slightly fucked and doomed.
At worst, it is only slightly fucked and doomed.
So the mantra is just only slightly. So whenever things get really bad, you can just say to yourself, only slightly. That's it. So here we are, and let's just talk about why we're here. We're so happy that you have nothing to do and that you've decided to join us. But really what we're here to do is we're here to raise money for one of the great Bay Area independent booksellers. And whenever I travel, the first place I go is to a bookstore. And a bookstore is a refuge for so many people, including people who work at the bookstores and really can't imagine themselves doing anything else. And they need our help. And so 1% of you is going to act on this prompt. And I'm counting on a little bit more. Everybody thinks it's going to be like 10% of people, like, oh yeah, 10% will join in. It's going to be 1% of you. So I'm asking you, if you don't donate directly, to buy books from bookpassage.com. And you may go there and it might not look as flashy as Amazon. I want you to know what this thing looked like behind the scenes. It was scary. But really, we have an opportunity here to take care of our bookstores and other businesses that we love. And so if you love a business, support it. And there's so much more going on at a bookstore besides selling books. It's a place where young authors can teach and can read and can get a chance to share their work. And it's so incredibly important. So if you can buy, I don't know, 3 books, I want to say 5, but let's just compromise on 3. You have nothing to do anyway. Read a book. So
let me say one quick thing, Sam, that
Yeah.
you were raised on the floor of Book Passage, because I had these 10-week sessions. I think I was the very first Book Passage University, and Elaine and I kind of cooked it up, and Elaine cooked it up and lured me into her web, as she is wont to do. And when I had a baby, Elaine is a famous baby snatcher. And so from the time that you were just an infant, I had a fall class. You were born in August. Elaine would walk you and give you a bottle. While I taught my class, it'd be like 40 people plus my friends who were drop-ins. I called them the riffraff. And like Terry Tate, who went on to publish a really important book called A Crooked Smile, and so on. And then eventually, you and Elaine were spending hours doing Legos together on the carpet at Book Passage. So, you know, we have a very profound and sacred history. And this bookstore, I mean, it is a bookstore. I'd love people to buy gift certificates for Christmas or anything, but a bookstore is like a cross between a church and a beehive and it's just it's a sacred place for those of us who read and who love the art. So it's great. It's like being in church with you, honey. So what did you want to start off by asking?
Well, we have a bunch of questions that were handed in by some of the people who chimed in before the event. And if you want to chime into future events, I'm sure just get on the email list and you'll get a prompt to ask questions. But we were also told that we don't have to stick to them. So, Mom, I'm going to defer to you. We have a lot of questions here that are about the writing process, or we could talk about just what life is like now, which is a little bit more current. What do you feel like talking about?
Everything, what I'm learning about the meaning of this experience that we're going through of the last 5 weeks or whatever is that we're all so vulnerable. We're connected in this profound way that probably only the poets could capture. And we're in this together. And, I always, as you know, I'm extremely spaced out. I was like this at 6 or 7, though I kind of came this way. I was like this absent-minded professor, and it did not get better after menopause, let me say. So I show up to give talks with notes, usually in my back pocket. And then Neil, my husband, and the organizers of the lecture are then dispatched to try to find the notes. Once Louisa Smith, who's the book buyer for Book Passage and the daughter of my best friends, Martin Cruz Smith and Emmy Smith. Once Louisa had to be part of this scavenger hunt at this huge event down on the peninsula where everybody tried to find my notes. And the funny thing is I often bring the notes for a faith talk when actually I'm going to give a talk on writing. But the thing I found over many, many years of losing everything, like Mr. Magoo, is that one talk will work for any talk, for either talk. So that if I'm talking about faith or writing, I always begin with the same thing. And it would help, I think, to as advice for how we get through what we're getting through now, which is just a tragedy. And also it's a tragedy and it's heartbreaking, and it's also a freak show because of the ones in power. But where I always start people is you stop doing what you're doing, you stop living unconsciously, you stop living trying to figure out what's in it for you, you stop trying to figure out how you can monetize it or whatever. I kind of grip my own wrist sometimes when I'm getting in the rat exercise wheel, and I say to myself, stop, breathe. And if you were wanting to start a book, that's what I would say to you. I would say, stop not writing your book, first of all, because most of the people who have come through my book passage workshops are very busy not writing. It's very easy to not do. It's very hard to sit down and write. And you know what? No matter how much move your finger good, write the damn book. Thank you. And you do it one day at a time. And wherever you are, you have enough to do the day just fine. You can both keep the patient comfortable and you can get something done that will be fulfilling. And that might be medicine for somebody else. Like Rumi said, through love, all pain will turn to medicine. And I would say that for people struggling with the pandemic. I would say it for people beginning to write. And I would say it for people that are beginning a walk of faith, that there is so much love outside of your own crazy pinball head. And if you're a writer, we're going to help you. If you're a writer, come to Book Passage, and somebody's going to walk you to the writing section, and they're going to give you writing down the bones, or they're going to they're going to give you the great, amazing Stephen King book on writing. But first of all, you have to stop not writing it. You have to stop not living the life that you could be living today of self-care and gentleness and getting something started that will keep on going when all of this turns into whatever it's going to turn into. So the things that I teach my writing students are, besides stop and stop not writing, are you start where you are, you start where your butt is. There's no algorithm, there's no calculus going to help you write. The bad news is you have to get your butt in the chair and then keep it there. And you're going to have to write really, really terrible first drafts that not a single book or poem that anyone listening today has ever read and loved began as anything good. It began as an incredibly shitty first draft. You begin where you are and you have enough to go on. And that's true of you spiritually. It's true of you as a parent. It's true of you as the daughter of parents who may have gotten old and who are in a really very vulnerable, scary position. You have enough to go on. So shitty first drafts. And then the other thing, I really only have two things I convey besides the love thing, that you have friends that are going to receive your work, and they're going to be honest with you, and they're going to be honest with you in a loving way, which is how we're called to be with ourselves. And they're going to say, like my friend Doug Foster, who wrote a book called After Mandela, he will say, if he reads my stuff, I'm going to love this. And but right now, I think the first few pages are kind of clearing your throat. And I think at the very bottom of page 2, it gets going. And I hate criticism, as you know better than anyone. And so I always think, well, I'll never talk to you again because now you're my mortal enemy because you criticized the brilliant first 2 pages. But your friends are going to be honest, and they're going to help you bring it up to the finest work it can be. They're going to help you burnish it, and they're going to help you bring forth stuff that you weren't confident to say yet. So the first two things are shitty first drafts and really short assignments. And all those years at Book Passage for those 10-week sessions, and now during the 3-hour sessions that I'll be teaching sometime in, I guess, August or September, Elaine will be able to tell you. You take a time, it's one day at a time. It's what we live by. But with writing, it's one passage, it's one page. I always had my students get each other 1-inch picture frames and say, all you have to do today is to write what you can see through this 1-inch picture frame. There's a scene, there's a memory, there's an imagination. Just do that and do a really bad job with it. And that is how something beautiful is going to use you to get itself written.
I wanted to bring up the subject of fear, which I think is in regular life one of the great teachers, you know, and one of the gifts of sobriety in my life of getting sober is that the first thing you have to do is you have to feel your feelings. And I was reading a story by about a man named Eddie Rickenbacker, who is a World War I fighter pilot, who said something along the lines of, "Without fear, there can't be courage." So if you're stoned and unaware and fucked up and not feeling fear, it's not really courageous of you to do bold things if you don't feel the fear and do it anyway. And this current situation is bringing up a lot of fear: fear of being alone, fear of not being alone if you're in tight quarters with your partner. And in your toolkit, because I've been talking to you over the weeks that this has been happening, what is your relationship to fear and what do you do when it comes up? How do you take this feeling, which is important? It lets you know what you're afraid of or what you're concerned of. Some people are afraid of crashing, some people are afraid of rising. And when you have fear, what is the Anne Lamott toolkit protocol when you notice yourself terrified that the world will never be the same, or that you're done with and will never write a good book again, or whatever or that you know your partner is driving you crazy and is defective, or whatever it is? What is your return to center when you find fear, and what do you take away from the fear that is important, that is part of the process, and why it is an important emotion to feel and to listen to and to incorporate into your life?
That's a great question. The way I heard that saying was, fear is courage. No, courage is fear that has said its prayers. And I really live in that. I'm afraid a lot. You know, people say, oh, you can't have faith and fear at the same time, but that is not my experience. I'm, you know, devout, I'm religious, I'm faithful, I'm sober, and I'm scared a lot of the time. I'm scared for, you know, I've been scared since the moment I saw your heartbeat on an ultrasound. I was scared the second I saw your child's heartbeat on an ultrasound. But there's so many great acronyms for fear that that kind of ring through the chambers of my mind. And one of them is just F everything and run, which is sort of what you want to do, is to run, numb out, drink or shop, or you know, rewatch Tiger King. And but once again, if you stop and you grip your wrist and you breathe, you're about halfway home, because you're in your body then, and you're in your spirit, and you're in your heart again, which is, you know, like the bumper sticker, if you lived in your heart, you'd be home by now. So there's another great acronym, is forgetting everything's already right. Everything's where it is, you know. And but my favorite acronym is frantic effort to appear recovered. So that no matter what, you want to look good, you want to look hip, slick, and cool, you want to look like you have a very highly evolved spiritual program and everything's fine. It's like, hey, Bob, Bob. And when you're there, you really can't receive the medicine, the Rumi medicine that through love, all pain will turn to medicine. So like yesterday, for instance, I just felt mentally ill, as you know. I mean, I saw you and Jax from 6 feet away at the barn, and I felt just sad and stressed and overwhelmed, and I'm just enraged at Trump. You know, I thought 3 months ago, one woman couldn't possibly be angrier and more contemptuous. And I mean, 3 months ago was the good old days in terms of my relationship with Trump. And I was feeling all those feelings, and it's, and Neil and I are in self-isolation, and it's challenging. I mean, I'm so in love, and he loves me so much, and he wants to keep me safe and you guys safe. And he has one way of strategizing the shutdown, and I have another way. And sometimes, relationships are tricky. And I did the one thing that almost 34 years in recovery has taught me. I said it out loud to a friend, to Janine Reed, who I was mentioning earlier, the opposite of certainty, and which is her book on living with a kid with a brain tumor, which is kind of like living in this age of a worldwide pandemic, and which is to say, you live with what you have that day. And Janine has taught me, and this is in the book, Opposite of Certainty, you change the definition of okay, and I'll say, how's everything going there today with your kid, your 22-year-old? And she'll say, he's in an art class with people who love him, so everything's okay. And that's what I'm having to do, is I'm having to change my definition of what okay is. So you know what I did? I called Janine. I said, I hate everything and I hate everyone. And marriage was probably the greatest mistake of my life, except for having a child. And she said, why don't we go for a walk 6 feet apart? So she came over here, and we walked over to those stables that you and I have walked to before. And we thought about taking horses home and keeping them in our yard, and how much that would cheer us up to look outside and see horses. Then we wussed out, and I said what was true. I just blurted it out. I told her the truth, and the truth set me free. And she said, it's always, in recovery, you hear, we can promise you a miracle, but unfortunately there's writing involved. And I did some writing about it. It was like an inventory, and I wrote down what I was acting like, and this, like the Buddhists say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I can answer that by saying, I feel that I am right, and I would like to be happier. And I have a disease of good ideas, and most of them involve trying to get other people to behave differently, and then I can feel more relaxed about everything. But once I had that all down on paper, it was a way of very gently busting myself. And then I didn't have that frantic effort to appear recovered. I just wanted to feel the movement of grace in my life, which has brought me to the house we share, Neil and me and you and Jax and Jordan and our animals. And here we are. Where do we start? Well, we start by being where our butts are. We start by being where our breath is. And I do believe, as you said, courage is fear that has said its prayers. And so I said my prayers, and I prayed, bless them and change me. And then I got really happy. And I've had a really happy day today, because I don't need to be right, and I don't need to look good. So.
As somebody with such good ideas for everyone else.
Yes.
If you were in charge, what would your wish be for people to do during this little bit of time that they may have to catch their breath? If they're out of work, or if they're taking a break from work, or if they're spending more time with their family, if you could be the teacher and give everybody a prompt for something to do for 30 minutes to an hour a day that you think would really pay dividends, what would you want people to be doing right now?
I would want them to go easy on themselves. I would like them to watch the self-talk, and I have a mentor since I got clean and sober in 86, and Horrible Bonnie, who is one of the people that also helped me raise you. And she always says, watch the self-talk. She says 2 things. And whenever she says them, I think, I'm never calling you again. This is so annoying. One is watch the self-talk, and don't stop judging yourself. And you wouldn't talk to me. I wouldn't talk to anyone listening today the way I talk to myself. And I don't know anyone. I know about 5 people who are watching this. And the other thing she says, I talked to her Sunday morning, and she said, isn't this a grand adventure? And I thought, that is it. That is seriously the last time I call you, because it's not a grand adventure. We have run out of good and plenties. It's all a nightmare. But it is those two things. And this radical self-love is something, and the serenity prayer are the two things that hold up under any circumstances at all. And so some people, like Neil, or people that are scientifically based, or people that are a certain way, are being extremely up to date and really precise about everything that Fauci says. And I believe every single thing that Fauci says. And I'm sure he'll be fired by like Tuesday right after lunch. But until then, and I also have my faith. I have a religious faith, and I have the faith of having a community of people in recovery who I can call and say anything at all to, and they'll be glad I called if I share the truth. And so those two things, you know, and then also that great Jefferson Airplane album, Volunteers. Is it Volunteers of America or for America? Of America. We're volunteers of America. And so what we're doing is you and I are volunteering today. And Elaine and Bill have one vision for this series, which is that to continue the dialogue between writers and readers that is so profound that it's like, you know, the tide of that comes in and that comes out and that goes out from the writer to the reader and washes over them and then comes back to the author and the booksellers like in a tide pool and actually brings the writer. And you know this firsthand, as for your podcast, you get more out of it than you give. And so that's what Bill and Elaine and every independent bookstore is doing, is trying to continue that profound title exchange. You and I, of course, secretly want to raise a lot of money for the bookstore so that yeah, I'll make that gesture too. And Bill and Elaine are like mortified, but that's not our problem. They have their own friends, they have their own therapists, they can deal with this. But I think that I have a button on the bottom of my page, you may also, but and also at the bottom of the emails. And so it's not one thing, it's many things. And that's what I would ask, you know, there's a guy who helped Bill Wilson start AA 85 years ago or whatever, and he himself was not an alcoholic. I forgot his name, my mind went blank, but he was a priest, but he wasn't an alcoholic. But he said, sometimes I think that heaven is just a new pair of glasses. And so I would ask people, you get to keep starting your new 24 hours over. It's 4:40 my time in California time, and I get to start my new 24 hours over, and I get to put on the better pair of glasses. I get to look around for the movement of grace in my life and the incredible generosity of people right now, the volunteers of America, or it's like what Mr. Rogers always said, or his mother always said when he was a child, and there was a tragedy, she said, look for the helpers. And that will restore your faith, because the helpers are going to come in and they're going to help people get up off the ground and, you know, help people dust their butts off and get started again. And so new pair of glasses is really profound for me. Sam, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. I wanted to read a really, if I can find it, I know this is another form of mortification for you to watch me try to do things. And I want to say to everyone listening that Sam said to me a couple of years ago, don't let people see you try to do things like to work the phone or the iPad or really the anything. And, but this book that's not out for years, so you don't even need to know, but the title of it is Dusk, Night, Dawn, because I discovered that twilight refers to both the dusk and the dawn. And it's that shimmery, mystical, trippy light before the night begins, and then right before the day breaks. And we are in a night. This book was written way before the pandemic, or at least a month before. And with Trump, we were in the night of America's night, the darkest night America has ever known. So I started a book, and the subtitle is Notes on Resilience and Courage. And so I want to just read this 2-paragraph beginning, the prologue, and then I want to read the part that there's a book passage section. And so if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a little break and read this.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And when I read about, when you can tell that it's secretly about Trump, just put in the pandemic, okay? And I hope it's helpful in some way. Here we are, older, scared, numb some days and enraged on others, with even less trust than we had a year ago. The UN report on climate catastrophe was published 6 months before my wedding in April of 2019. The report on the extinction of 1 million species 3 weeks after I got married. Wow, major buzzkill. Our poor country has been torn asunder. I am awaiting personally the rain of frogs. And I've gotten somehow so much younger. I got Medicare 3 days before I got hitched, which sounds like something an old person might do, which does not describe adorably ageless me. I mostly love being in the third of my life, as it is the easiest life has ever been. Well, except for the bodily aspects and the dither and the fogginess. And I wouldn't go back a year. Well, maybe back 1 year before the 2 UN reports, which would have changed everything. At our wedding were all the people we love most in the world, gathered in a redwood grove to celebrate the miracle that Neil and I had found each other, needles and haystacks, wrinkly mulish needles, and fallen in love and toughed out some conflicts, to celebrate and overeat, while outside the sacred circle, our nation and the world seemed to have reached the point of no return. So we danced. And then I want to cut forward towards the end of the book with a little story about book passage, and which is my home away from home. And this is from the very end of a chapter about the blackout and what we learned in the blackout. What we learned in the blackout was how much really works every day still. Candles work. Candles give us the most beautiful light. Love works. Overeating is always helpful, I think. I mean, I think candy works. Reading works. Music works. And so this was a piece about the blackout. We still didn't have Wi-Fi, and I had run out of books on my tablet. So if the power came on too late, I'd have to read a book by lantern. Small print is poor light. That's small print in poor light is hard in older, dimming age. So Neil and I headed to the great independent bookstore, Book Passage in Corte Madera, which had its power back on because it's near the county hospital, and the county hospital's power was back on. Book Passage has been passionately loyal to me since my first book came out 40 years ago. I want to say when Elaine told the story about buying a few more books in 1980 when Hard Laughter came out, she didn't buy a few more books. She bought 2,000 more books that were being remaindered in a warehouse somehow. So it's not like she bought a dozen books to keep Hard Laughter alive. Okay, so anyway, so my plan was not to buy a large print book and thus support Book Passage. It was to use the store's Wi-Fi to download a book on my tablet in the cafe with tea and ginger cookies and Neil and Wi-Fi. We both caught up on the news and Twitter. Then I hunched over my tablet and downloaded an ebook like a thief. And that was the moment I looked up and around, busted by my own conscience. That was my moment of awakening. I got up and went to the large print section. I picked out my first large print thriller, which is like buying a pack of literary Depends, and I paid for it at the register. I flirted with the elderly bookseller. The wall around my heart was more porous again. That's the movement of grace. The wall is the bodyguard. This is based on our friend Duncan, Sam, who says, when you first meet me, you're meeting my bodyguard. And that's how that's a great line. And that's how the essay begins. The wall is around my heart is the bodyguard. When it is soft and porous, there is indeed risk, but at the same time, my essence could stream out again like a sprinkler and make contact with all that's real and all that is lovely and all that is right here, right now. When the lights go out and we deploy our candles and lanterns, we see the beauty of contrast, which makes both light and shadow precious. In art and photography, it is called chiaroscuro, as in the scenes of cobbled European streets or Fra Angelica's angels. And of course, shadows and light in our own families. And when Neil and I got home that night, our electric power was back on. We binged on TV and Wi-Fi, read in bed for a while, healed and turned off the lights. We rested in the dark, enveloped in a blanket of warmth and love and weight, free of gravity for a little while. Darkness can be so soothing when you know it won't last forever, and you can slip into shadow as a refuge, especially when the light has been so pitiless. Spiritual wisdom is that light is the truth. Light always gets all the headlines, but there are many kinds of beauty in darkness, like the silver golden glitter in the internal dark when we close our eyes, and twilight, and in dawn. So I think that's sort of in answer to at least one of the questions you asked here, is to see the beauty in the isolation, to see the beauty in the darkness, to see the beauty in the cold, to see the beauty in this scramble that this country, the Volunteers of America, have engaged in to try to get food to children who are only eating at public schools because the government won't help them in their daily lives, and the scramble to get medicine to our elderly, our precious, precious elderly who are so vulnerable right now. And in recovery, you've heard me say this before, Sam, but we use intimacy as meaning into me, I see. And what we're hiding from is not the lovely, selfless, trusting, beautiful places. We're hiding from the shadow of us that we think we alone have in spades, whereas it's part of the human condition. We're all this way. We're all self-centered. We're all scared sometimes. We're all, grasping and clinging and trying to figure out what's in it for us. But to go into that kind of intimacy, to see it, for me to say it to you or Janine yesterday or Neil, frees me and helps me get my sense of humor back, which is always when I know that grace is being restored, grace as spiritual WD-40, and I can breathe again and laugh. And laughter is carbonated holiness, and I'm home free.
So thank you for that reading, by the way. I haven't even heard that. So
I know.
So there's a lot of questions about the writing process, and I just want everybody to know that my mom spills the beans on episode 2 of the How to Human podcast. If you're really curious about her writing process, it's there. But that tells me that there's a lot of writers in the audience, and
But
so
sweetie, I wouldn't even know how to find my own interview with you at Hello Humans. So could you just, I know this is annoying, but could you just tell people how to find the interview I did, which is an hour on writing, right, with you and me?
yeah, I think longer. And wherever you get podcast, How to Human podcast, I believe it's episode 2.
And then you put in search and Lamott. Okay, thank you. Okay.
How to Human.
How to
But to make this pertinent and to maybe start a trend with these writer series, because obviously there's a lot of creatives in the mix. If you were teaching us all a class, all whatever we are, 6,000 or 7,000 of us, and we're all having a little bit of challenge coming up with something to write with, what would the Anne Lamott prompt of the week be for them to write a short story or a short essay?
That's a great question, honey. I always tell all my students, write what you'd love to come upon, so that in a big class or the workshop I do, a book passage, or the classes I used to teach, it's like the into me I see. It's like getting to know your own heart and soul better, your own life better, and become the narrator of your own life. So some people love historical narratives, and some people love memoirs, some people love history, some people love thrillers. So I would say, if you're going to write a short story this week, ask yourself what you'd like to come upon. Like, I would love, what I do love, what I'm finding all over the place, is people that just lost their minds when they started to get a sense of how Trump was going to handle this, i.e. by saying that it was actually just a hoax, and it was just Chuck Schumer trying to hurt the election for him, for Trump. And so I would love to read stuff by people who had just lost their mind, lost any faith in humanity, hated everyone, and were just thinking about running off to Tahoe, and or like leaving Las Vegas, except with M&M peanut butter, a 2-pound bag of M&M peanut butter, who little by little, I mean, the arc of a story is you start off where you are. The famously was Alice Adams talked about how you write a novel. And I always told my short story writers, it's A, B, D, C, E, the action. The thing about writing is you got to get people to turn the page somehow. So you can't just clear your throat, which is what I usually do for 2 pages, and I have to take it out. But so you start with something that's happening, that we're in a pandemic, that in San Francisco or whatever, there's this tremendous tragedy unfolding because of the way that the country has prioritized the Trump agenda for the last 3+ years. And so you have some action. What would be a funny action? I was in the bathroom and I had actually created a new bald spot by tearing out my hair or whatever. I was with people who were not observing the 6 feet away, and I was wishing I had, you know, a Dungeons and Dragon weapon to just poke at them. Whatever. I was here, I was there, I was looking miserably in the refrigerator. Who had eaten all the ice cream? Whatever. A, B, D, C is action, background. What's the background? I'll be 66 in a couple of days. Don't forget, you and Jax need to kind of go big this year since we're in isolation. Background, who are we, where are we? We're in Marin, or we're up on the trail, or we're out playing Dungeons and Dragon in the living room that Neil created for us this morning with a fire pit. Or what's the background? What's the development? What happens? You don't just stand in the bathroom forever pulling at your hair.
Let me jump in real quick, because I think this could be something cool for the community around Book Passage to do. You got to get a little bit more specific, but how about everybody tags Book Passage on social media, and they use the hashtag so we can find you, called Book Passage Prompts. So hashtag Book Passage Prompts. And maybe Elaine, you can figure out a way, a Facebook group or something, where they could send them in and you could curate them, but a way for people to read each other's stories. But we need a prompt, lady. Okay.
Oh, for me. Okay, let me finish.
It could be one word. It could be a
I'm going to do it.
sentence.
I promise.
Okay. All right.
I remember when you and I did, what was the name of the book we did together? Some Assembly Required. And we were touring the country and doing events together. And someone would ask a question and I would do this. I'd kind of dither and do 1,000 tangents. And I'd look over and you'd be gripping your forehead, going, make her stop, make her answer the question. But anyway, the ABD, the development is what, who are these people? What happens next? Something happens, things change, the plates of the earth shift. Somebody enters a picture that wasn't there before, ideally 6 feet away. The climax is where every note you've played so far, every rhythm you've sung, everything comes together in the crash of cymbals. And it's something after which things are different, everyone's different, life is a bit different. And then E is the ending, where if you've taken your readers in a short story across a lily pond, you've landed on this lily pad, that lily pad, and over here is the ending. You're going to get out of the pond with your readers together. It's communion. So the prompt would be, how are you different than you were a month ago? How has this changed you?
Okay, so that's it. How has this changed you? That's Book Passage prompt number 1. Elaine, I'm sure you can figure out how to find the best. And I would love to challenge the writers in the audience to write something short, write 1,200 words. Give yourself 72 hours, write it bad if you want, and
Write it bad.
tag Book Passage and let people know that Book Passage is a place for young artists to find an audience. I mean, I know a lot of people that on their first book that they ever sold went to Book Passage and
And
did a
Elaine
reading
made
there,
a space for him.
and
Yeah.
Elaine made a space for them. So,
Yeah.
um,
Let me tell people a quick story from when you were about 10 and you were so used to these workshops, and we were driving over to Corte Madera from Fairfax, and you were already bored. You hadn't even gotten there because you were 10. And you said, why do you teach these workshops? What do you think people get out of them? Most people won't get published. And I said, because it teaches people about their life. It teaches people about who they are and what life is all about. It teaches them to understand at a new depth, you know. And you said, oh, Mom, I already understand about life. Pretty good, some problems. So at the Sun Valley writing program years ago, they made me a piece of art that says, pretty good, some problems. Sam Lamott.
so I'm on a social media blackout just for my own mental health, but I will check in later and see if people are tagging it. Hashtag Book Passage prompts. Let's see if anything comes in. And part of this event is to get books sold for Book Passage.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that people are asking about is what books are you reading? And
Uh-huh.
I would ask, so what books are you currently reading that they can buy at bookpassage.com
Uh-huh.
or whatever the
Uh-huh.
website is? You can
Uh-huh.
Google it and find it.
Uh-huh.
And what are the books that you're reading? And what are a few books that you wish you could be reading for the first time right
Oh,
now?
that's a great question. Well, I just finished a few months ago. I did an event at Book Passage with the wonderful Elizabeth Altman, who wrote Motherhood. And we had such a great night. It's a fantastic book. I mean, it's funny and painful. And like any book that's important, it's about me. It's about her and her mother. And the biography is very different, but there's only really one story, that we were born and we were here for a while. We met a few people. We read a few books, and then we got older, God willing. So that Motherhood I loved. I love Shelter by Barbara Kingsolver. Neil's daughter just asked for a reading list, and I said, read everything you can by Barbara Kingsolver. I wish I could read Poisonwood Bible for the first time. I was so blown away. With younger writers, I always tell them to read Mr. Bridge or Mrs. Bridge by Evan Connell, Connell. Because it was a book that my family knew Evan Connell. My dad and he were close. And in fact, he was the first man I was going to marry, although I was only 6. But he would be at our dining room table and I'd be down below. He was so handsome. And but when I read Mrs. Bridge at probably 16 and then again at 20, it gave me a whole new model of how you could do a novel, which was in these very short takes. You could write a 3-page chapter. You could write a 1-page chapter. And then years later, I know Elaine and the people at Book Passage could track down Speedboat by Renata Adler. And that was a book that gave me a whole new way of telling a story. It was connected chapters. And that's kind of how I got Hard Laughter started. You just got to get this thing off the ground. And then just like Elaine, it'll suck you into its beautiful web and you'll want to keep going. But the hard part is to get going. And so Mrs. Bridge is basically a perfect novel. If I remember being 23, because it was the year my dad got sick, and reading Surfacing by Margaret Atwood. And so I tell his daughter, Marina, and I tell young writers, read everything by Margaret Atwood, you know, and get hooked. Get hooked on very, very literary writers who are making you turn the page. Right now, I happen to be reading a very literary thriller by Chris Bojalian, which is Bojal, I think AIN, Elaine, not. But if you put in, it's called Red Lotus, The Red Lotus. And he wrote a novel called Midwives years ago. That was really a perfect novel. Jane Hamilton, oh my God. These are writers that just really fed me. I mean, there's so many different kinds of food, and for me, good writing is one of those foods. So I'm reading a thriller. During the day, I read more esoteric stuff, like I always read the New Yorker, and then I read, I'm on Twitter a lot, and the New York Times and the Washington Post. But I read more esoteric. I read a lot of nonfiction at night. I mean, during the day, and then at night, I tend to just want something where somebody is creating a world, usually a really literary thriller. A world, this is what the writer does. This is what we do. You create a world and you invite me to enter into it. And in that world, I get very lost by your characters, by the atmosphere, the moodiness, the story that you're telling. And in that form of getting lost, I once again get found every time. We're humans. We like stories that are about ourselves, and in the ancient days, and in this tradition, I'm continuing, the tribal elders called people to the fire, and they wanted to hear a story, and they wanted to hear a story about themselves, because we're here to find out who we are and what life is all about. And we're the only species that know we're going to die. And we want to know how, in the face of that, how we're going to live, and how to live with a certain fullness and immediacy, how we wake up, how we, and so those are the books that I love. It's funny, whenever I was doing interviews, people would always ask for some books that I really love, and I could never actually think of a single book I'd ever read. It was like when I was a food reviewer, and people would always, at California Magazine, and people say, oh, what is it? Tell me a good restaurant that I don't know about. And I literally would not be able to think of a single restaurant I had ever eaten at. So anyway, I hope I gave you some good titles. You can pre-order Janine Reid, R-E-I-D's book, The Opposite of Certainty, which is based on that great, maybe I already said this, yeah, we have to end in a second, but that great Paul Tillich line from the 60s, when he said the opposite of faith is not doubt, it's certainty. And I like to remind our little Tea Party friends that really, if you're very sure of yourself, I am uninterested. I really don't want to sit next to you at the table, because you're going to annoy me to death. So I actually think we're supposed to stop about now.
No, because we started late.
Oh, okay, so
Right,
maybe
so
one
we'll-
more question.
We'll do
and
a
I'll
few.
try
Well,
to
I'm going to
keep-
recommend a few books too that I
Okay,
wish I
good.
could, because we
Okay,
need
good.
people to buy
Okay,
books.
good.
Buy more books, people. That's what we're here to do.
Okay.
If I could read anything again, one of the most important books I read as a young man was The Road Less Traveled
Yeah.
by Scott Peck, I believe.
Mhm.
And then more recently, a book that, reading books for researching the guests of the podcast, one of the most important ones I've ever read was It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. And
Okay.
we've since become hiking partners. I was just so amazed. And it's about intergenerational trauma, inherited family trauma. And it's just incredible and can really move the needle if you find yourself stuck with the same kind of speed bumps over and over again.
Mhm.
And this is going to sound silly because it's like junk food of writing, but the first fiction book I read in probably 15 years, which was last year, was the Song of Fire and Ice series, which is the Game of Thrones books. And
Oh, yeah.
if you bought them all, you get full credit for supporting the bookstore, because there's like 7 of them or something, and they last forever. So you could pick it up I used to pick it up while I was on an exercise bike, and you just never run out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's so much deeper than the show.
Oh,
It's really
Isn't that heaven to know that even though you have to finish it and you're going to be so sad when the book ends, you can just pick up the next in the
Oh yeah,
series.
you'll never finish it.
You'll never finish. And one more thing we can say, I wish, Elaine, can you blink if you want us to stop, or blink twice if you want us to stop?
You don't have to stop yet.
Okay, a few more minutes in. Another way that you can support the bookstores or any great independent bookstore is by buying gift certificates for Christmas. You could get all of your Christmas shopping done in one fell swoop by buying 10 gift certificates for your cousins and your nieces and your nephews. And so, Sam, is there a question or two you would like to ask, or that you think the readers would most like to ask? We don't know what we're doing right now.
Oh, speak for yourself, woman. God damn it, Carol Baskin, ruining my way of life.
That's a reference to Tiger King if you haven't read it yet. If you haven't watched
If
it
you
yet.
don't get the reference, I don't know you.
Okay.
There are only people who have either seen Tiger King or haven't. But rather than ask you a question, I would love if you could guide us in a very agnostic sort of prayer or guided meditation kind of thing where we can all just follow along and listen to your book passage, State of the Union.
Oh, that's so sweet. But I would begin by reading the poem. Poems are epic. Poems are meditations, and you know the poets know things. And I would start by this poem that's the epigraph to the book that doesn't come out till next year by Ursula Le Guin, who's an amazing, breathtaking writer. It's called The Hymn to Time. Time says, let there be every moment, and instantly there is space and the radiance of each bright galaxy, and eyes beholding radiance, and the gnats flickering dance, and the sea's expanse, and death and chance. Time makes room for going and coming home, and in time's womb begins all ending. Time is being, and being is time. It is all one thing, the shining, the seeing, the dark abounding. I love that so much because my prayer and my hope for people getting through this time would be to, you know, left foot, right foot, left foot, breathe, and to remember that most of the stuff you're thinking right now is for entertainment purposes only. It's not either happening or going to happen. And that what is true is breath, and what is true is love. And that if you are with somebody who is very patient with you and overlooks how annoying you can be from time to time, because we're all annoying, and who is able to be there for you when you are feeling really depleted, you've hit the lottery. That's really all there is. And my prayer for people is to realize that grace abounds, and that we can put on the new pair of glasses, and instead of your opening mantra of doom, that the doom is true, and so are all the bright ribbons around us at every moment, and that there's only the moment, and the moment is holy. And so I'm just so blown away by getting to do this with you today, Sam. It's so amazing. And to picture you on the floor of Book Passage with those little baggies of Cheerios and the little markers. I think you once marked up the rug at Book Passage. So we actually owe Bill and Elaine in a way that we can never make up. And also Bill and Elaine, they, through these classes at Book Passage, paid our rent for several years when I wasn't doing very well. And now we're going to help them pay theirs, you know, and help them minister to their employees, and help them keep everybody insured with health insurance, and help everybody keep everybody's spirits up. And the last part I would say, if I were saying with a prayer, is that the reason the whole system works at all is that we're not all nuts on the same day. So, you know, pick up that 200-pound phone and call someone. And if you're doing okay, call the loneliest person you know and say, you know what, I was just thinking of you. How are you doing? So anyway.
Thank you. And thank you, Elaine, for putting this together.
Yeah.
Remember, everybody, this is about raising some cash for the bookstore. So if you can, buy the damn book. If you're a writer, write the damn book. Okay. Just write for an hour a day. And I would love to personally, even though I'm not doing social media right now, I would love to see if anybody wants to participate in some book passage prompts. And that could be something that they ask all the upcoming authors, and you could get a homework assignment while you're bored. So the prompt, the Anne Lamott prompt is, who are you now? Is that right?
How are you different now than you were a month ago?
how are you different now? And if you don't know, you can always ask yourself. All great things start with a question.
Yeah.
And bookpassage.com, buy the damn book. Thank you, everybody. And
Back to Elaine. Thank
back
you
to Elaine.
so much.
Thank you both. You're fabulous. And, 44 years of running Book Passage. And Annie, you have been such an important part of it from the very beginning. And yes, Sam, you were adorable and still are. And then I got to have Jax after he came. So this family means so much to me, as to all of our Book Passage family, our staff, our authors, and especially the people who have been our customers for a long time or a short time. Please come to all of our sessions, and we'll continue the dialogue with conversations with authors. We'll see you tomorrow. At 3, we're going to put up the archive of today's event. So if you need to take more notes, if you're thinking you'd like to take a class from Annie, email classes@bookpassage.com. Come to our website, bookpassage.com. And tomorrow we'll see you at 3 and again at 4, especially when Isabel Allende will be in conversation with Don George. Thank you all. I am trying not to cry.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. Good.